When the stars went silent, Captain Maya Torres had seen many strange things during her 15 years exploring the outer reaches of the solar system, but nothing had prepared her for what she discovered buried beneath the ancient Martian ice. The metallic structure pulsed with an inner light that seemed to respond to her presence, its surface covered in symbols that defied human understanding. Control. This is Torres. I'm looking at something that definitely wasn't made by us. She reported through her comm unit, her breath fogging the inside of her helmet as she approached the artifact. The object was roughly the size of a small building, its surface smooth and perfectly preserved despite what appeared to be millions of years of burial. Dr. James Chen's voice crackled through the static. Maya, whatever you're looking at, proceed with extreme caution. We're reading energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. Maya circled the structure, her heart racing with the implications. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now, standing before undeniable proof of alien intelligence, she felt the weight of history on her shoulders. As her gloved hand touched the surface, the artifact suddenly blazed with brilliant light. The transformation was immediate and overwhelming. Holographic displays materialized around her, showing star maps, alien script, and images of worlds beyond imagination. But what caught her attention was the figure that appeared before her. Tall, elegant, with skin that seemed to shimmer like starlight and eyes that held the wisdom of millennia. Greetings, young species, the being said, its voice somehow translating directly into Maya's mind. I am Keeper Zenth of the Vanguard Alliance. If you are receiving this message, your species has reached the threshold of galactic awareness. Unfortunately, you have also inherited our greatest burden. Maya stepped back, her scientific training warring with the surreal nature of the encounter. This is impossible. You're speaking directly into my mind. Nothing is impossible, Captain Torres. We have been monitoring your species for some time, waiting for the right moment to make contact. That moment is now, though we wished it had come under better circumstances. Zenth's expression grew grave. Your galaxy faces a threat that has consumed entire sectors of space. We call them the Shadow Swarm. The holographic displays shifted, showing massive dark shapes moving between stars, leaving empty void where solar systems once existed. Maya watched in horror as entire civilizations simply vanished, consumed by entities that seemed to devour light itself. Every 1,000 years they emerge from the dark spaces between galaxies, Zenth continued. They consume everything, planets, stars, life itself. We have fought them for eons, but each time they grow stronger. 700 civilizations have fallen to their hunger. Maya's comm unit crackled with urgent voices from Earth. Dr. Chen's team had detected the energy surge, and governments worldwide were demanding answers. She held up a hand to silence the chatter, focusing on the alien before her. What do you want from us? She asked. We offer you what we have offered every species that has reached this threshold. Evacuation. Our ships can carry 50 million of your people to safety in distant galaxies. Your species will survive, even if your world does not. The weight of those words hit Maya like a physical blow. 50 million out of 8 billion. Less than 1% of humanity would survive, and only by abandoning their home world. How long do we have? The Shadow Swarm has been detected at the edge of your galaxy. They will reach Earth in 67 of your days. You must decide quickly, evacuation or extinction. Maya closed her eyes, thinking of her daughter playing in the gardens of New Geneva, of her elderly parents watching sunsets from their home in California, of the billions of humans who had never asked to be faced with such an impossible choice. Has any species ever chosen to fight? Zenth's expression grew sad. In 12,000 years of galactic history, no species has ever chosen to stand against the Shadow Swarm. They are not merely powerful, they are inevitable. To fight them is to choose death. But you've never asked humans before. No, Zenth admitted. We have not. The next 48 hours were the most intense in human history. Maya's discovery triggered emergency sessions of the Global Council, where world leaders, scientists, and philosophers debated the future of their species. The footage of dead worlds and the testimony of Keeper Zenth were broadcast worldwide, sparking conversations in every language on Earth. Dr. Chen worked tirelessly to analyze the data, running simulations and searching for any weakness in the Shadow Swarm's seemingly perfect destruction. Admiral Sarah Knox coordinated with military leaders worldwide, knowing that conventional weapons would be useless against entities that consumed stars. The numbers don't lie, President Rodriguez of the Americas Union argued during one heated session. 50 million survivors carrying forward human knowledge and culture is better than 8 billion graves. We have a moral obligation to preserve our species. Chancellor Okafor of the African Federation disagreed. And who chooses? Who decides which families live and which die? We would be building our survival on the ultimate betrayal of our own kind. Prime Minister Lee of the Pacific Alliance presented a different perspective. Perhaps the question isn't whether we can win, but whether we can live with ourselves if we don't try. What kind of species abandons their home without a fight? The debates raged. Something unexpected began happening around the world. Citizens weren't fleeing in panic or demanding spots on evacuation ships. Instead, they were organizing. Engineers volunteered to work on defense systems. Scientists shared research freely across national boundaries. Military personnel requested transfers to Earth defense rather than evacuation duty. Maya found herself at the center of it all, somehow becoming humanity's unofficial ambassador to the Vanguard Alliance. Keeper Zenth contacted her regularly, growing increasingly concerned as the hours passed. Captain Torres, your leaders must decide. The evacuation ships are waiting, but they cannot remain much longer. The Shadow Swarm approaches, and even we dare not face them directly. Maya looked at the latest reports from around the world. Children were drawing pictures of spaceships and sending them to defense facilities. Religious leaders were holding unity services across denominational lines. Artists were creating works celebrating human resilience. The entire species seemed to be coming together in a way that had never happened before. Zenth, in all your history, has any evacuated species ever regretted running? The Keeper was quiet for a long moment. The survivors often speak of phantom pain. They dream of skies they will never see again, of places that exist only in memory. Some say they died the day they left their worlds, that what survived was merely an echo of what they had been. But they survived. Yes, they survived. Is that not enough? Maya thought of her daughter's laughter, of the courage she saw in the faces of her fellow humans, of the 8 billion souls who deserved better than to be written off as acceptable losses. What if survival isn't enough? What if being human means something more than just existing? The final vote came at hour 65. Representatives from every nation on Earth cast their ballots in what would either be humanity's greatest decision or its final mistake. When the results were announced, they were unanimous. Humanity would stand and fight. Maya opened the channel to Keeper Zenth one last time. The alien's expression was a mixture of admiration and grief. Keeper Zenth, please convey our gratitude to the Vanguard Alliance for their offer. However, humanity has chosen to decline evacuation. Captain Torres, this is not courage. This is collective suicide. Your species will be remembered as the most beautiful tragedy in galactic history. Maya smiled sadly. Maybe. But we'll be remembered as humans. And if we're going to die, we'll die fighting for the place we call home. The transmission ended, leaving Maya alone with the weight of her species' decision. Outside, Earth continued its ancient rotation, beautiful and fragile and home to everything humanity had ever known. They had 67 days to prepare for the impossible. As news of the decision spread, the expected panic never came. Instead, there was a sense of unity, unlike anything in human history. Political differences were set aside, ancient rivalries forgotten, and cultural barriers dissolved in the face of a common threat. For the first time in their history, humanity truly stood as one. Dr. Chen joined Maya at the observation deck of the Mars station, watching Earth rise over the Martian horizon. The planet looked the same as always, but somehow it felt different. It felt like home in a way it never had before. Do you think we have a chance? He asked quietly. Maya thought of the dead worlds in the Vanguard's records, of 700, civilizations that had chosen evacuation over resistance. Then she thought of 8 billion humans preparing to make a stand that no species in galactic history had ever attempted. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I know we're going to find out the stand that shook the galaxy." The transformation of humanity in those 67 days was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. What started as a desperate decision became a masterclass in human ingenuity and determination. Every Yalda factory on Earth was converted to defense production. Every university became a research facility. Every human became a soldier in the fight for their species' survival. Dr. Chen led the scientific effort from the newly established Global Defense Center in Geneva. The facility buzzed with activity as the world's greatest minds worked together, sharing knowledge that had been kept secret for generations. Military, technologies, space exploration research, and theoretical physics merged into something entirely new. "The shadow swarm doesn't just consume matter," Chen explained to the assembled team. "According to the Vanguard data, they absorb the life force itself. They're not just destroyers. They're parasites that feed on the energy that makes life possible." Admiral Knox studied the tactical displays showing the approaching threat. "Conventional weapons are useless against them. Nuclear weapons barely slow them down. The Vanguard's energy weapons have no effect. We need something completely different." Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a quantum physicist from the European Research Consortium, looked up from her calculations. "What if we're thinking about this wrong? Every species that faced them tried to fight destruction with destruction. What if we fought consumption with creation?" The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A group of children from the Tokyo elementary school had sent a drawing to the Defense Center, a picture of humans holding hands around Earth, with lines of light connecting them to the stars. The image sparked an idea that would change everything. "Biological energy networks," Chen said suddenly, staring at the children's drawing. "Not just human technology, but human consciousness itself. Every living thing on Earth connected in a unified field of life energy." The concept was revolutionary and terrifying. Using modified satellite networks and quantum entanglement fields, they could theoretically link every human mind into a collective consciousness, not to control, but to amplify their combined will to survive. Admiral Knox frowned. "The risks are enormous. We're talking about connecting 8 billion minds. The psychological strain alone could destroy us." "The shadow swarm will definitely destroy us," Chen replied. "This gives us a chance." Word of the plan spread across Earth. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Volunteers lined up at connection centers in every city. Families held hands as they prepared to link their consciousness with the rest of humanity. Religious leaders blessed the effort, calling it a sacred union of souls. Maya Torres had returned to Earth to coordinate the global effort. Standing in the command center, she watched as connection after connection came online. The sensation was indescribable. Suddenly, she could feel the presence of every human on the planet. Not their thoughts, but their emotions, their determination, their love for their home world. "Contact in 30 minutes, Admiral Knox announced. Shadow. Swarm entities are entering the outer solar system. Through the orbital telescopes, they could see them. Massive shapes that seemed to absorb light itself, moving with purpose toward Earth. The Vanguard Alliance ships retreated to a safe distance, their crews undoubtedly expecting to witness the extinction of another species. But as the shadow swarm approached, something unprecedented happened. The human consciousness network began to glow, literally. Energy signatures, unlike anything in galactic history, began emanating from Earth, not as weapons, but as a declaration of life itself. The first shadow swarm entity to encounter this energy field recoiled. For the first time in galactic memory, one of the universe's ultimate predators hesitated. "It's working," Chen reported, his voice filled with wonder. "The combined life force of 8 billion humans is creating a field they can't penetrate." But the shadow swarm adapted quickly. More entities converged on Earth, their combined hunger growing stronger. The human network strained under the assault. and Maya could feel the pain of her entire species as they fought to maintain their connection. "We need more," Admiral Knox said grimly. "They're adapting to our defenses." That's when the second miracle occurred. The dolphins in Earth's oceans began to sing, not their usual songs, but something new, something that resonated with the human consciousness network. Then the great whales joined in, their deep voices adding harmonics to the growing symphony. Within hours, every living thing on Earth was connected, plants, animals, microorganisms, all adding their voice to humanity's defiant chorus. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. The shadow swarm entities began to retreat, their forms becoming unstable as they encountered a form of life they had never experienced before. Not individual organisms to be consumed, but a planetary consciousness that grew stronger with every attack. But the shadow swarm had one final strategy. They began to consume themselves, merging into a single entity of unimaginable power. The combined hunger of 1,000 consumed worlds focused on Earth, with the intensity of a collapsing star. In that moment of ultimate crisis, humanity made one final choice. Rather than trying to defend against the attack, they opened their network. Completely. Not just to life on Earth, but to the universe itself. They offered their consciousness to the cosmos, sharing their hope, their dreams, their unbreakable will to survive. The result was beyond anything anyone had imagined. The human consciousness network expanded beyond Earth, beyond the solar system, touching every form of life in the galaxy. Species that had fled the shadow swarm for millennia suddenly felt the presence of the small blue world that had chosen to stand and fight. The Vanguard Alliance ships suddenly blazed with light as their crews joined the network. Across the galaxy, evacuated species felt the call and began to return to their abandoned worlds. For the first time in galactic history, life fought back not with weapons, but with unity. The final shadow swarm entity, faced with the combined will of an entire galaxy, simply dissolved. The hunger that had consumed 700 civilizations was finally satisfied, not by destruction, but by the realization that it too could choose to be part of something greater. In the aftermath, as the consciousness network slowly returned to normal, Maya stood on the observation deck of the Global Defense Center, watching the sunrise over Lake Geneva. The world looked the same, but everything had changed. Humanity had not just survived, they had transformed the galaxy. Keeper. Zenth's transmission came through later that day, his voice filled with wonder. "Captain Torres, what your species has accomplished is beyond our understanding. The shadow swarm has been turned away not through force, but through the power of connection itself." Maya smiled, feeling the lingering presence of 8 billion human souls who had chosen to stand together. "Zenth, you told us that no species had ever chosen to fight the shadow swarm, but you were wrong. We didn't fight them. We showed them what they were missing." The Keeper's image flickered with what might have been tears. "Your species has changed everything. The evacuated civilizations are returning to their worlds. The galaxy is alive again because you chose to remain alive." Dr. Chen joined Maya at the observation window, his expression thoughtful. "Do you think we'll ever face a threat like that again?" Maya considered the question, thinking of the children who had drawn pictures of unity, of the volunteers who had risked their minds to save their world, of the dolphins whose songs had helped save the galaxy. "I don't know. But I know that whatever comes next, we'll face it together." The story of humanity's stand against the shadow swarm spread across the galaxy, inspiring species that had forgotten how to hope. The small blue world that had refused to run became a symbol of defiance, creativity, and the unbreakable power of unity. And in the end, that was perhaps the most human thing of all. Not just surviving, but inspiring others to remember what it meant to be alive. As the sun set over Earth that day, 8 billion humans went to sleep in their own beds, on their own world, surrounded by the stars they had helped save. They had chosen to stand when the universe chose to flee, and in doing so, they had reminded the galaxy what it meant to truly live. The universe would never be the same, and neither would humanity. The message was clear. When faced with the impossible, humans don't just survive, they transform the very nature of what's possible. In a galaxy that had forgotten how to fight, humanity had remembered how to hope. And sometimes that makes all the difference.